Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of the How to Use Special Tools series. Please go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell on your way in, and stay tuned. So the tool that we're going to be using today is a digital multimeter. The one that I have is from Harbor Freight. I've been using it for quite a while. It's actually a really good meter. So I'm going to show you guys 3 different tests that you can do with this meter. And I'm going to start out with one of the easiest ones, one of the most commonly used ones. So you've got your leads here. You got a black one and a red one to indicate positive and negative. And first thing we want to do is set it to volts DC. We're going to put it on the 20 volt scale. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. And then we're going to go ahead and check battery voltage here. So what we want to do is take our red lead, put it on the red or the positive of the battery. Then the next thing we do is we take our black lead here and we'll put it on the negative of the battery. And we can see that we got a little over 12.6 volts, indicating that this battery is fully charged. So, the next test we can do is an Ohms test. So we're going to leave our leads here in the same spots, except we're going to switch it over to the Ohms logo. And I like to start out with the beep test, which not every multimeter has, but it shows that little speaker or audible logo. So now it's showing no reading, but if we put the 2 leads together, it'll beep. Okay, I figured out what was wrong, and it was because my damn lead was broken. I had to go grab another one out of the drawer in the inside toolbox. So we're basically back where we were here, and you can see, hopefully you can hear that. So that shows that there's continuity. It's essentially an Ohms test. And you can use that to check, for example, let's see the negative battery post to the strut nut. And see, that shows that there's continuity between those items, which means that electricity can flow between those two. Now, if you're looking for an actual measurement, it will give you that as well. I'll try to put that here so we can see. Let's do between these again. Alright, let's check here on the 200 ohm scale. So we've got just a little under, around, it's bouncing, but it's around an ohm of resistance between those. You can get an actual number that way, and then that'll tell you the resistance of whatever you're checking. Most of the time it's used to check the resistance between a sensor of some kind. So we could check this, for example. Let me turn the camera here. Okay, so I believe this is the manifold absolute pressure sensor, and there's going to be some pins on the inside here, and I'm going to try to check the resistance of those pins. This is something that you can do sometimes to check certain sensors. So I'm going to just put it on any 2 of the 3 pins. So there's no resistance. Doesn't matter which 2 I touch. Let's go here. Okay, now we got a reading of 0.6 ohms. Yeah, so you can check basically if the sensor is broken inside. Now obviously you're going to want to follow the manufacturer's recommended procedures for what the actual ohms should be and which pins that you're trying to check, but that was just a basic example of what you can do to use the ohms test on your multimeter. The next thing I'm going to show you is basically the parasitic draw test, or the amps part of it. So the digital multimeter is 3 functions. It's a voltmeter, it's an ohm meter, and it's also an ammeter. I've shown you the voltmeter part when we checked the voltage on the battery, and I just showed the ohm meter function. The next thing we're going to do, well, I'm actually not going to do it because I don't want to, have to reset my clock and everything, but I'm going to explain how you would use the voltage, or excuse me, the ammeter function of the multimeter. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we're getting this test done is we're going to want to take our red lead out. This is extremely important. Take your red lead out and move it to one of these two. I generally use the 20 amp max for when I'm trying to check for amperage in the higher than an amp range. I believe that the other one is for very small amperages. If you do not switch the positive lead over to the amperage holes and you try to check amperage coming off of the battery, you will likely see smoke coming from your meter and or from your leads. I have done this more than a couple times, and it actually goes to speak for how decent of a tool this, $25 Harbor Freight one is. This is a very good tool, especially for a beginner, in my opinion. It's very inexpensive. It does all the tests and jobs you're going to need to do, and it can even withstand a little bit of negligence or, rough play, if you will, because I have most definitely tried to check amperage without switching those over first, and I literally saw smoke blow out my leads. So make sure to go ahead and switch that over. Next thing we're going to do for this amps test is we want to disconnect our negative battery cable. So you want to take this part completely off the battery. Then you want to take one of your leads and you want to put it on the terminal. Remember, this is disconnected. We're pretending that the terminal's over here and the battery post is here. We're going to take one lead and connect it to the terminal end, and the other lead is going to connect to the terminal. So instead of our terminal end connecting directly to the battery, it now has to go through the meter first and then into the battery. And as long as you are on the amps setting, which is this one here, amps DC, you can start out at the high scale and work your way down if you're not seeing anything. You basically want to have about 50 milliamps or less, otherwise you do have a parasitic draw. So that's the way that you're going to test how to do an amps test on a automotive application. And that's going to be the end of our video for today. Definitely would recommend picking up one of these if you're a starting out mechanic, or if you don't have one. They're very inexpensive and you're missing out on a lot of jobs, diagnostic type work, battery replacements, stuff like that, if you do not have one of these tools. In my opinion, you really can't even do so much as basic electrical diagnostics without one of these. So I strongly recommend picking one up. Otherwise, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time for part 3.